Hi everyone, this is Shelley Corbett, and today I'm going to be discussing the United States and German cultures using the Hofstede model, which compares countries and cultures using 6 dimensions or orientations. So I will first discuss that, and then I'll go into communication, motivation, and teamwork, and how interaction between these two cultures affects those 3 areas. Finally, I'm going to provide a biblical perspective on cultural differences. So the reason that I am choosing Germany is because I am German. So both of my paternal grandparents are German, and my father grew up speaking fluent German. So I am the first generation in my family not to speak fluent German, but I was still very affected by German culture and traits, and it highly influenced me. So I'm very excited to take this opportunity to learn more about the culture through this course. So before we delve into Hofstede's model, just a brief overview of Germany. The geographic location, you can see this little dot right here is Germany, located in West Central Europe, and then you can see the United States over here. Just to give you a better perspective of that. The government is republic with parliamentary democracy. And the religion is Christian, so 65 to 70% of German citizens are Christian. And then the main ethnic groups are German and Turkish. 91.5% of Germans are Turkish, or are German. 2.4 are Turkish, 0.7 are Italian, 0.4 Greek, 0.4 Polish, and then there's another 4.6% that's classified as other. So now we're going to go into the first dimension, which is individualism versus collectivism. Now we can see that both the United States and Germany are highly individualistic. The United States actually comes in first out of all the countries and cultures that were looked at through the Hofstede model, and I actually used this book as the main source for my studies. And then we can see that Germany got a 67 out of 100. So both of these cultures are very individualistic, very focused on individual rights, and you'll hear the phrase a lot about loving oneself or finding oneself, things of that nature, whereas collectivism focuses more on loyalty and family groups and things like that. Next, we have indulgence versus restraint. This is an area where the two cultures differ. So indulgence focuses more on, an instant gratification and finding pleasure in your present life, whereas restraint focuses on delaying that gratification for the future, because Germans are more focused on looking ahead. And so that's one big difference between these two cultures. One thing that was emphasized very much in my family when I was growing up was first you put in the hard work, and then later you reap the benefits and the rewards of your hard work. Then we have long-term versus short-term orientation. Now this one, I kind of feel like it relates to the indulgence versus restraint dimension. And I'll kind of explain that as I go along. So long-term orientation is focused more on the future, whereas short-term is focused on the past or present. So you have the United States focused on past and present, Germany more on long-term, and that can be related to the fact that, as I said, Germans tend to delay gratification and practice restraint and reap the benefits of future reward, whereas people in the United States are more likely to be indulgent or short-term oriented. So this is just a little quote that I provided. So Americans could see Germans as placing on excessive emphasis on rules, whereas Germans, in the same sense, may see Americans as putting excessive emphasis on instant gratification. So it's just important to remember that there is no good or bad orientation. Everyone is different and has, positive traits to bring to the table depending on how they express that orientation that's been cultivated within their culture. Next, we have masculinity versus femininity. So in this trait, you can see that both cultures are very masculine oriented. And so in this case, they carry more traditional male and female gender roles. So the females are more likely to be calm and soft-spoken, nurturing, more motivated towards nurturing relationships and things of that nature, whereas men are expected to be firm, assertive, go to work, take care of the family. So you can see that both cultures tend towards this orientation. Next, we have high power versus low power distance. And so in the United States and in Germany, we see a low power distance taking place. So a high power distance would be more space between the leader and the subordinates. So he would be less accessible. Whereas a low power distance, which we see in both of the cultures that we're comparing in this case, shows that the leader is more accessible to his subordinates. There's more likely to be side-by-side working taking place, so the leader will reach out to the subordinates for input and ways to improve an organization, and he's more likely to allow autonomous roles within the subordinates in his team. Then we see low versus high uncertainty avoidance. So the United States has a low level of they're more uncomfortable with uncertainty avoidance, and so they want the answers, right away. So if you're looking at it in the aspect of an organization, if you're going to give someone a role, they would be more comfortable knowing exactly what is expected of them, and not having any uncertainty take place, whereas German culture won't be as uncomfortable with this. Now that we've discussed those 6 dimensions, I want to talk about communication and how both of these cultures are impacted according to the Hofstede model. So going over power distance again, because both cultures have a low power distance, this could help with communication between the leader and subordinates. They'll most likely be on the same page and be able to work alongside one another in that aspect. And then we have masculinity and femininity. Again, both cultures are masculine oriented, so they're more likely to follow the traditional gender roles in that aspect. Then we have motivation. I think uncertainty avoidance is highly affected by motivation, or motivation is highly affected by uncertainty avoidance. So we have the US culture who's uncomfortable with it, and then the German culture who's a little more comfortable with uncertainty avoidance. So this would most likely affect motivation in the sense that someone from the United States who is uncomfortable with uncertainty will be motivated to find answers. And then looking at short-term and long-term orientation, whereas although the two cultures are different, I don't necessarily see this as a bad thing. This could actually be a great advantage for a team that had both individuals from the United States and individuals from German culture. So someone from the US might be more short-term oriented, which means they're focused on the past and present. So they might be more focused on past financial statements and present daily operations, which is important. Whereas someone from Germany might be more focused on the future and be able to use those past financial statements in order for future growth and success. So this is a way in which a team with diverse cultures can actually benefit from those differences. And then finally we have indulgence versus restraint. And so this is another area where excuse me, it's just important for both cultures to be self-aware of the differences between one another and use those differences to create benefits and positive difference within an organization. Finally, we have teamwork. I put power distance in here again simply because I think that teamwork is highly affected by the low power distance in both of the organizations. So teamwork will look like the subordinate and the boss working alongside of each other. And I know within my organization, my boss is very accessible to me. I'm very comfortable going to him if I have any concerns or needs, or I need to collaborate with him on anything. And again, he gives his workers a lot of autonomy within their roles, expecting them to get the job done, etc. Finally, we have individualism and collectivism. So again, both cultures are very individualistic. This does not mean that they won't work well in a team together, but it's more likely that instead of taking the reward for someone's work as a team, they're more likely to recognize that individual's contribution to the team. Lastly, I'd like to look at a biblical perspective on cultural differences. So I've provided just a few scripture verses, but there are actually quite a lot on cultural differences and differences in general between people. I provided a picture from the story of the Good Samaritan found in Luke 10, 25 through 27. And so the Samaritans and the Levites were known for not necessarily getting along. They had a lot of differences, but still the Samaritan chose to help the Levite and bridge that divide between the two groups. And so the cultural difference should not be a problem, and so I felt like this really reflected that. So finally, this sums up the German and United States culture. I hope this gave you a better understanding of the two cultures, and if you were to work with them in an organization or any kind of teamwork group, you would be able to be self-aware of yourself and what your culture has done to shape you, as well as what their culture has done to shape them, and how we can use our differences not just for growth. So instead of looking at it as a situation where we're trying to just understand someone so that we can work alongside of them, we're using it as a way to use those two differences to strengthen an organization or a team. Thank you.